Hey guys, thank you for joining us for another episode of Casually Christian presented by Livestream My Event. If this is the first time you are watching our show here on Casually Christian, we talk about people's lives, their interests, and their passions. So if you like our content, please remember to hit like and subscribe and smash that notification bell to catch the latest episodes of Casually Christian, now streaming on Spotify. So yeah, please hit us up there. Today on Casually Christian, we're going to talk about classic cinema versus modern cinema. Like because of the technological advances with movies, like the scope of a production is limitless to the director's imagination, but it comes at the cost, not at the cost of the budget of the production, but the cost of the story. It just seems like movies, for me, they don't really hit the right cinematic notes. I mean, don't get me wrong, there are movies that do hit those spots, but it's kind of hard to find these movies now, especially with like the way consumers are viewing content. It's just harder to find these gems. To me, today, we're going to bring Micheal Smith on to Casually Christian to talk about this topic. And I actually think that you're a bigger movie buff than I am, man. Like you're watching movies every day, and you're analyzing them. Like
Yeah.
you're actually like writing things out. Where I just watch it and I'm like, oh, that's pretty good, and then I'm, I move on. But
Yes.
you really, really analyze it.
Sometimes I get lazy and I'll just be like, oh yeah, no, this person did a really good job in this movie, and it's like, okay, that's. But yeah, no. Sometimes if I'll like have a lot of thoughts and it'll just flow right through me, and yeah,
You know what makes a good movie is that like not only that it stays with you, but like it makes you want to revisit to see what other things that you missed during that first watch, because you're so kind of like overwhelmed by the universe that you're watching, that's what makes a good movie.
yeah, I think so too.
And what I mean, what movie when you were a kid, like what drew you into the world of cinema? Do you remember the movie that's like this is one I want to follow? Because I know like you went to film school, right? You had like a film degree.
Yeah. I So there's a couple answers to that one. When I was really little, The Little Mermaid came out, and that was like the first
Yeah.
movie I was obsessed with. Like I had the soundtrack and everything, but then I got a little older and I watched Jurassic Park, and that one just like blew my mind. Like
Yeah.
there's nothing else like it. And that was one of those things that got me into movies, because that it's like that one transported me in a way that no other movie had ever done.
I got you, man. Like it literally took you to another world.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, like I mean, because I can't. We're part of the same generation. I think you might be a little younger than me, but we grew up with the same type of movies. And Jurassic Park was like the movie. Like what was it? Came out in '95,
Uh,
uh,
93.
something like that. Like yeah, the mid '90s. But it was just crazy because I know you and me both know the story of like Jurassic Park, where like they wanted to do the animatronic, like the claymation, and then somebody showed them like the CGI, and they were just blown away, and that basically ruined that one particular skill in Hollywood, the claymation thing, and that it rewrote, like it changed cinema, and that's what good movies do. They change the next movie. People are striving for that.
And for better and worse, like
Yeah.
sometimes you'll get like these movies that look really good with the CG, and then other times it's like, well, you didn't have to do that with CG. You could have just done that with practical effects, and it would have
Yes.
been better.
Absolutely, man. Like, because I mean, it costs the same, right, to get these people to develop it like in the computer lab. Like,
Yeah.
it's almost like the same cost. So why not like actually do the practical effects so it could give to give you the more authentic look.
An example I'm thinking of right now is have you seen The Lone Ranger?
Yeah, yeah,
That one costs so much money to make, and it's a Western. Westerns are not supposed to be expensive. Like
mhm,
they make Westerns because they were like really cheap to make. You just go to a desert and film it.
yeah.
But there's so much unnecessary CG in that movie that I think that's what drove up the costs.
I see, man. And do you feel like because I wouldn't say because nothing about making a movie is easy,
Oh yeah.
but but in terms of like creating the world in that computer lab, it just seems like they lost the capability of like creating, like developing like a good story is what I'm trying to say. Do you feel like that's right, or we're just kind of like old men, yelling at the clouds? It's like, in my day, movies used to hit the right cinematic note.
I think it's a mixture. I think you could have like these movies that are done like entirely in front of a green screen, and it could be good. I mean, Life of Pi was a really good example of that,
Mhm.
where it was all filmed like almost the entire movie was filmed in front of a green screen, and it looked great, and it was a great story. But then you have like the Star Wars prequels, where, my opinion, I think the first one's the best one, partially because it was filmed like in actual locations with like actual sets, actual costumes. Whereas 2 and 3 were like, all we're gonna shoot in front of a green screen the entire movie, and
Mhm.
everything's gonna be filled in with CG. And it looked amazing at the time, but you watch them now, and it's like,
They're
oh, this
dated.
really didn't look great at all.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about, and also like Jar Jar Binks. It's like he totally took away from like, because like they were doing like this big reveal during like they were having dinner, and then like Jar Jar comes in with like this unnecessary like comedy that just took away from the scene. I don't know if you remember that scene with I can't remember the guy's name. The guy
Like
from what was that?
Qui-Gon Jinn,
Yeah, you know those like, and
the one where he
then
grabs the food with his tongue.
yeah, that one. It was just like it drove me crazy. I'm like, dude, like I was so like I got into it, and then he broke the fourth wall for me. I'm like, ah.
So I was still young enough when that movie came out where I was really into Jar Jar. So I
Mhm.
do still have a soft spot for that character, and I
Yeah,
get for. I know. I don't know if he was serious or not, but George Lucas said that Jar Jar was inspired by Goofy, and I kind of see it.
mm. I mean, I
Like,
can see it with the ears,
yeah,
right? And it
costume.
literally acts goofy.
Yeah,
uh, my favorite Star Wars from that era is the Return of the Sith. I thought that was a really good one.
yeah, that one's really good too. And
Yeah.
I don't hate any of the prequels. I think they're very enjoyable for what they are, flaws and all.
Mhm.
But you could tell the difference between like the one that was filmed like on location. It just feels bigger. It feels more real.
Like
And then
organic.
yeah,
Yeah, and well, I mean, a lot of people like I expressed that I like the what's it called the Last Jedi, and I got shit for it. Is like I was like I enjoyed the movie. Like I posted on Facebook, and then some guy said, "As a writer, I am disappointed that you like that movie." I'm like, "What?" I'm
that,
like, "Calm down."
that was divisive. I had someone tell me that it. I disagree with the sentiment because I think it's both. But a person told me it's a great movie, but a bad Star Wars, and I
Mhm.
disagree that it's a bad Star Wars. I think it's a really good Star Wars, but it's a divisive movie because it kind of changed a lot of things that people are used to in Star Wars.
Mhm.
And even the character of Luke Skywalker, there's a lot of pushback that no, Luke wouldn't do that, and I'm thinking, why wouldn't he? Like, it's been 30 years since the last time we've seen him. Who knows what he's been through in that time frame?
Yeah,
Like, that could,
people change, right?
yeah,
Well, of course, it's a long time.
yeah,
So, what do you consider like A New Hope a classic Hollywood movie?
oh yeah.
Yeah. What do you consider a classic Hollywood movie
Um,
besides it being like black and white?
for
Because like
me,
that's like a dead giveaway, right?
yeah, for me, classic doesn't even necessarily need to mean that it's old,
Hmm.
or because they're like instant classics. Let me think of one from that was kind of recent. If you look at the best picture nominees for this year, there's a few of them on there. Like, I thought The Power of the Dog would fit in that category, and
Hmm.
Coda.
What's the Power of the Dog about? Like the people are talking about it, and like it seems like they're really like elude from the plot. Like I don't know what's the story about.
It's really tough to describe it. It's wow. How do I describe it?
Because I heard, is it a gay movie? I'm like, is that what I heard? I'm like, is that correct? What I heard or
It's
no?
yeah, pretty
Yeah,
much.
yeah. Is it like
It's overt.
Brokeback Mountain?
It's not like Brokeback overt, but it's in there. There's a lot of subtext.
I got you. Would you recommend that movie, or is it not
Yeah,
like, yeah?
yeah.
What's
I
your favorite? What's your favorite one in the that's nominated this year for Best Picture?
that's Drive My Car was really good.
What's that one about? Because I have, you know what? The only one that I've seen, I don't know if it's nominated for an Academy Award, but Macbeth. I saw Macbeth, and I thought it was a
Macbeth.
really good movie.
It's not up for Best Picture, but it does have like Denzel Washington is up for that award, and I think
Mhm.
it should get it for like cinematography. It
Yeah.
amazing. Denzel's amazing in it.
Mhm.
It's probably one of my favorite Shakespeare adaptations.
Yeah, me too, man. I also like that Hamlet one that had like all this like this great cast from the
The
'90s.
the one from the '90s. The
Yeah, I think it had like Robin Williams and
Yes,
yeah,
that one's really good too. I think that's like the only full adaptation of a Shakespeare play too that I know of anyway.
yeah. And it's like a 4 hour movie.
Yeah,
I
worth it.
remember, yeah, like no, it's really good. I remember watching it in middle school because we were learning about Shakespeare, like in the drama class that we had over there, and we watched portions of it throughout like the class because it's such a long movie.
Yeah,
But yeah, like it's just crazy that now future middle school students now have Macbeth to watch.
yeah.
Yeah,
I also had the '90s version of Romeo and Juliet.
which is pretty sick. I love that.
Right.
I love that one. Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of like shows what you can do with Shakespeare,
Hmm.
and to another I don't want to say lesser extent, but movies like 10 Things I Hate About You
Yeah.
and uh, what was the other one? She's the Man, movies like that that are inspired by Shakespeare. I think that also like gives it new life. I love it when a movie takes like an old piece of literature and adapts it to like modern times.
Yeah. I totally agree. Like it's like some like different people could direct like the same script differently. You know what I mean? Like it's their own version of it, their own vision of it.
Yeah.
And you know what? Going back to what I said, like I don't think we got the answer about like what makes a classic movie a classic movie.
Oh, that is because that's a really hard thing to define, I
Yeah,
think. Um there are times when it's like I think because I don't even think that's something that you could like really
that's
define
too broad.
everyone. Because
Yeah.
to some people, like for me, I think Pulp Fiction is a classic. I know people would probably disagree with me on that.
Mhm.
Um, but and looking back at some of the older films, Casablanca, which is my favorite movie of all time, obviously a classic. But are all movies from that era considered classics, or
I
you know?
see. Well, I guess the classicals is from like that era, but they also like kind of like Citizen Kane, where like it makes it's groundbreaking in the way like they shot it, and like the story draws you in. I would consider that a classic, and the same with Rear View Window.
Rear Window, so
Yeah,
good.
because they Alfred Hitchcock he built the set like in the basement of Paramount Pictures, I believe, and I think you might know the story about it, right?
I haven't heard that yet.
Yeah, like
Yeah,
because they were looking for because they were building the whole community, right? And the
yeah,
only way they could do it is by like building it in the basement up, and that's the way they did it. So I'm like, that's really they created like a little neighborhood from New York right there.
yeah.
It's pretty. That's what I'm talking about. Like they built stuff back then.
Oh, especially like if you look back in the silent era, like they would just build these gigantic sets like in LA and just kind of leave them there.
Yeah, yeah.
I think the one a famous thing was King Kong.
Mhm.
The set for that was burned down, and when they were burning that down, they used that as a background shot in Gone with the Wind.
Oh, really? I
Yeah,
didn't know that. Oh,
it's
shit.
like when the city is burning down, like
Yeah,
that's what that was. I need to check my sources on that to make sure I'm being accurate. But
I know.
that's
That's what you heard, and
yeah,
that's what I heard too about Alfred
an
Hitchcock too.
urban
So.
legend for all I know.
Yeah, and like like it's just a very interesting like just the way because back then like cinema was still new, it was still a baby, like how like pictures they spoke funny as like today on news report, like with that inflection because
Yeah,
they were just coming out of the silent era and they were thinking about it's like, well, this is the first time people are going to be listening to actors, so they felt like they needed overemphasize their vocabulary in those old school movies. That's why they spoke that way, and I thought that was very interesting.
yeah, and a lot of them were coming from theater too.
Yeah.
Like, um, it's interesting watching that change happen because I think it happens like maybe somewhere in the '50s
Mhm.
when Marlon Brando comes into the scene and James Dean, and they start to give more naturalistic performances. And it's
Mhm.
kind of funny that I hear it described that way because even looking at those now, it's like, well, it still feels like really theatrical.
Yes.
But like for that time frame, it's like they hadn't seen anything like that before.
Mhm. And then we got into like I think the '70s is like where like the cinema like started like to go through a revolution again, because there was a long while where they were just like doing these grand movies and nobody wanted to go watch them. They were just like the audience were just staying at home and watching TV, so they weren't the studio heads where they weren't sure what was connecting to the new audience, and the new audience was like, I guess our parents, right? Because they were watching like The Exorcist, Taxi Driver, help me out here, The French Connection. Like these are all like movies that gave the language of cinema the language.
The 70s are a really fascinating time for
Yeah.
movies. I think with the ending of the Hays Code in the late 60s, that just opened up doors to like all kinds of. In fact, I'm recently finding out that like even the adult film, the porn industry came kind of close to being like a legitimate genre of sorts.
Oh, I didn't know
There
that.
were some that like became like pop culture like phenomenons. I think like Debbie Does Dallas and things like
Hmm.
that. But that didn't end up happening. But you see like X-rated movies. Well, now
Like
there
Deep
are
Throat, right?
now there are rated movies, but at the time, X-rated movies winning Best Picture like Midnight Cowboy.
Mm.
Um, and then in the 70s, they get really gritty, they get really violent, they get really like, and they get experimental too.
Yeah. They weren't scared of taking the chances, and see, that's why modern cinema is different, because the studios, they're not taking these chances that 40 years ago, 60 years ago people were taking, because movies are so they're risky as hell to make, because they don't know if they're going to make a profit, if the director's going to croak, you know what I mean? There's just so much writing on the line, so the studio heads now, they just want to secure a good turnout, like the new Superman movie, Batman, like proven genres, and it
Yeah,
sucks, because I feel like somebody like a blogger said, movies now are the fast food of cinema. Like, you just consume it, you watch it, it's good, it feels good, and then once it's done, you move on for the next feel good movie. And it's like, oh yeah, and then like what's in junk food is not good for you, because like if you're watching it, it's gonna make you dumb.
the sad thing about that too is like I'm not even against the whole idea of the comic book movie. In fact,
Yeah.
I enjoy pretty much all the Marvel movies. I'm like guilty of enjoying those,
Mm.
but I feel like there should be room for both. Like
Yeah.
it used to be that you would do the big budget movie, that the safe one, the one that
Mhm.
like gets you the money, and then you would like kind of push some of that money aside and do the risky one.
Yeah,
Because
like
we
with Fox Searchlight, with what they did, with the independent movies in that time, with Garden State,
going to make the next Star Wars for, and I know James Cameron is kind of trying with Avatar, and that's apparently coming out this year. But
Yeah.
um, like, who's going to make the next Star Wars when there's nothing? Who's going to take a chance on that original concept that's
Yeah.
going to cost a lot of money, but maybe
Mhm.
it might be like the next big pop culture phenomenon.
Yeah, exactly. Because like now they say they are taking chances, but on pieces of work that already exist, like novels or graphic novels,
Yeah,
like getting like a new George Lucas to create the new thing like Star Wars. It's almost like impossible now. It's kind of
yeah.
sad. Imagine somebody like everybody shooting down George Lucas today, because there's like, look, kid, like this is just too much money, like it's not. And then we would be missing Darth Vader and Luke, and all those characters, and
I
it's just kind of hard. What were you gonna say?
He and Lucas and Spielberg were kind of lucky in that they came into the field like in a time where they were willing to take those chances.
Hmm. Agree.
Like Star Wars, Jaws was a huge risk, and at the time, like no one knew that was going to be a big hit, and everything that was going wrong on set, how much over budget the movie went, like that. If that movie failed, we wouldn't have Spielberg, we
Yeah.
wouldn't have Jurassic Park, we wouldn't have like any of these amazing movies. West Side Story this year.
Yeah. Did you like this version of West Side Story than the first one, or is it like
I
it's two different movies, or you should appreciate
I
appreciate them?
prefer it over the first one.
Mhm.
Like uh the writers took the musical and I don't want to say they made it modern, but they updated all the problematic stuff
Mhm.
and like made it more palatable to our audiences today.
I see.
And obviously they didn't cast like a bunch of non-Latinx actors as the Puerto
Yeah,
Rican.
they actually got like Hispanics to do it.
Yeah,
Well, I haven't checked it out because it's streaming right now on Disney. But
yeah.
I just feel like I don't know. Like I'm not. I'll eventually check it out. But just feel like
And they did
I don't
bring back
know.
Moreno, and she is amazing in this.
Say that again.
They brought back Rita Moreno,
Oh, really?
and she is amazing in this. I wouldn't have been mad if she also got nominated for the Oscar, but Ariana DeBose definitely does deserve that nomination, and I hope she wins it too.
Oh man. And that's like, who are your favorites for this year's Oscars?
Oh gosh, this is a. I love this year because this is one of those years where I don't. It doesn't really matter who wins. I'm probably going to be happy with it.
Mhm.
Like,
Oh,
especially
okay.
best actress category. Like, I see so many people complaining about Jessica Chastain because she's like so over the top, but that's she's supposed to be.
Hmm.
I love all of the actresses who are nominated this year.
Really? So
Yeah,
you watched all the pictures like that? That's on the list.
I've seen most of them.
Most of
There's
them.
a couple on the list that I need to get around to, and they're
Hmm.
mostly in like the tech categories.
Hmm.
But like the major nominees, I've seen them.
That's good, man.
Yeah.
Like I mean, this seat, like, what are your feelings about like the hosts this year? It just feels like I don't know. I'm not a fan of Amy Schumer because like she steals jokes, and I seen like clips where like she's like literally like ripping off the material. Like it almost to me it seems like they got like Carlos Mencia to host part of the show. That's the way I feel. But I don't know. Do you care like their choice of host this year?
Um.
Because nobody beats
No,
Billy Crystal. Let me tell you
I
that.
don't really. I don't really like pay too much attention to that now because she's not like hosting the whole show, right? It's
She's
just
part of it. She's one of them.
yeah, they do that every year, and sometimes some of them do better than others. Maybe she'll do fine. Who knows?
Who's your favorite host?
Oh, host. Oh, gosh, that's a tough one. Billy Crystal was really
Yeah.
good. Even though that last time he hosted, he sort of dipped into sort of problematic material there.
Hmm.
I guess he did his Sammy Davis Jr. bit, which that shouldn't have happened in 2000. Seth MacFarlane was really fun, I thought.
Yeah, like Seth MacFarlane, I think Billy Crystal and Conan O'Brien did a pretty good job. I think
Oh, yeah.
Conan. Yeah, what doing? Did Conan do the Emmys or
I
the
think
Oscars? He
he,
did do the Oscars, right?
I don't remember him doing the Oscars.
He did host one of them.
I'm sure he did. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
What I liked about McFarlane too, and I was saying this before they like pulled him to do it. It's like this guy kind of has like, yeah, he tells a lot dirtier jokes, but he reminds me of Bob Hope the way he stands on stage.
yeah. He's
And
multi-talented.
yeah,
He's a good-looking guy too.
yeah. So that was
Uh,
cool for me. Um, I do kind of miss like the bits where they would kind of make fun of the movies that they were honoring. I know that
yeah,
was kind of the Billy Crystal thing, but
yeah. But that's from another time.
yeah,
What are your feelings with woke Hollywood? Do you think woke Hollywood is kind of like ruining movies right now, or do you? What are your thoughts and opinions about that? Because I
I,
know a lot of people like bitch about it. It's like woke Hollywood's ruining movies, and they're not. That's why they're not hitting. They're not the same anymore. Like, what are your thoughts about that?
I, I don't think that's a thing personally.
Say that again.
I don't think that's a thing personally.
Hmm.
Because I've heard the statement said before, like, "Oh no, we could never make Blazing Saddles today," and I'm like, number
Hmm.
one, yeah, that's true because that would be plagiarism, and you can't make a movie that's already been made. But also, like, Blazing Saddles worked because it sort of walked that line really skillfully of like not crossing it.
Yeah, it was
Um,
like better. Yeah.
yeah, a copycat would try to make Blazing Saddles, and they'll like dip way too deep into the racist jokes,
Hmm.
and it comes to the point where it's like you have to know like where to pull back, where to like understand what's punching up and what's punching down.
Yeah, and it takes somebody really talented to figure that out.
Yeah,
Like
Blazing Saddles was mostly punching up.
Mel Mel
Mostly.
Brooks.
There were
Mel
a couple
Brooks is fucking great, man.
70s, so obviously they didn't get everything right, but you know.
My favorite Mel Brooks movie is Spaceballs. That's my all-time favorite movie.
So the first
From Mel Brooks.
Robin Hood Men in Tights,
Yeah, that's a close one.
yeah, I saw that
You,
one.
like the first time I saw like Spaceballs was my introduction into the Star Wars world. I didn't know that was based on the movie because I watched that when I was a kid more than the Star Wars movie. And I'm like, oh, this is based on this. Yeah, that's how I got into Star Wars because of Spaceballs.
Nice. That's kind of cool. Like that does happen where the thing that makes like I know it's not. I saw Airplane, the
Hmm.
parody of like the disaster movie, years before I would see Airport, the
Oh,
old movie that it was making fun of, and it's like, oh wow, this wasn't even that far off from the movie that was making fun of it. But
and
the downside of that though is now you get these rock biopics.
mhm,
Uh, when Bohemian Rhapsody came out, the first thing that came to my head was like, well, this is just a serious version of Walk Hard.
yeah, I mean, it was still pretty good. No, like
Yeah.
I liked it. I mean, did you see the new trailer to the Baz Luhrmann biopic of Elvis? That looks pretty
I'm
cool.
gonna give that a shot because I think Baz Luhrmann could do something really interesting with that.
Yeah, for reals.
Like he
Like,
doesn't make like boring. I don't think he would just do a straight biopic. I think he would just do his own, add that his own flash to it.
yeah, and that's what like drew me in when it says like directed by Baz Luhrmann. Like, oh shit! I'm like, all right, I'll give it a chance now.
Yeah, I like his movies usually.
Did you like Moulin Rouge? I didn't like it.
Oh,
Yeah, I didn't like it.
it's one of my favorite movies actually.
Really? Oh, really? Like everybody loves it. Like everybody loves it, but I don't know. For some reason, I liked Romeo and Juliet better. I don't know. It was just it was my tastes.
I think Moulin Rouge was interesting because it did sort of like it really leaned into that almost fantasy aspect of it, using like modern music in like turn of the century times.
Yeah,
But it for some reason it like all came together. It worked for me. Like the emotions were there. I still get emotional towards that ending, and I almost want to turn it off right before that like final act where I'm like, no, no, no,
yeah,
she lives, she's fine.
yeah. I know what you're talking about because like I don't know if you watched the Selena bio TV show like on Netflix.
I haven't seen the new one yet.
Well, like we only have like one more episode left, and we haven't picked it up because we don't want that poor girl to die.
Yeah,
Because she's such a likable character in the show. I'm like, fuck.
yeah,
So we're trying to keep her alive and not watching the last episode. So,
yeah.
uh,
We watched the movie so many times.
you know who makes great movies like overall, like in term of like the quality of the picture and the storytelling is Pixar. Pixar knows how to tell a great story,
Yeah,
and they're fun to watch. Like they're. Uh, what were you gonna say?
I think so too.
Did you
Uh,
watch Turning Red? That was
yes,
freaking great. I
I
love that movie. It's so cute and like it's a story about mothers and daughters.
yeah, they've been doing that a lot. Like, someone pointed out that they've been really leaning into the generational trauma
Mhm.
aspect, and I feel like that does make for a really interesting story. So I don't even mind that this has been their like motif for like the past 5 years because it works every time they do it.
Yeah.
Like I still ugly cry watching Coco.
Hmm.
Encanto almost gets me every time, especially when it gets to that Dos Oruguitas scene.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like my movie when I was a kid that I couldn't watch to finish it because like was the Fox and the Hound.
Oh,
Yeah, I'm like I was watching that movie and I was crying as a little kid and I had to turn off the tape because I'm like I was all like this isn't gonna end well. I'm like so I just turned it off. I was fucking bawling.
I don't. What I don't get is like when I was a kid, I like had like the coldest heart. I wouldn't cry at any movie, even like Lion King, watching Mufasa die. It's like, yeah, that's sad, but it's
You're
not.
putting up like a front,
Yeah,
like
and
nothing
then
hurts me.
as an adult, like literally everything's making me cry. Like I'm watching, like I watched Dear Evan Hansen twice, and I know that's not the most popular movie this year, but like that movie, and I knew the scenes were coming because I'd already seen the stage version, and every time they'd come up, I'm just like bawling my eyes out. Like there's like two songs in the musical that get me every time, including in the movie. So
Like yeah, like that's like Sprite in my eyes, not tears.
yeah,
I noticed that you have a Titanic on the back, and that was one of my favorite movies when I was growing up in middle school. Like I
same.
saw it like 3 times, like in the movie theater. And did you watch it repeatedly, like in the movie theater, like when it
Yeah,
was the
and
thing to watch?
VHS tape, and when I bought it pretty much every time it got re-released on something.
Yeah.
I went to go see the 3D re-release when that was a thing.
How was that? Because I didn't go to that one.
I thought it was okay considering like you could tell a movie that was filmed for 3D and a movie that was sort of converted to 3D, and
Yeah.
Titanic was only converted to 3D.
Yeah. They were trying to make that money. I was like, all
Yeah,
right, let's
I don't
release it in 3D.
get in the big screen again, but
Yes, true. You know, like I noticed. I don't know. Is it because of the pandemic? Because we haven't had a 3D movie in a while because of the glasses, or is it the fad is over?
I forgot what movie it was because there was one this year that I ended up seeing in 3D, and I can't remember what it was. They do still do it, but
Mhm.
it's not like I think they realize that it's the gimmick isn't working as well
Yeah,
as it do. And honestly, I don't think they should have done it as much as they did.
yeah, they overdid it. They really beat that horse.
Like Avatar, if or when Avatar comes out, if that does have a 3D release, I'll probably want to see that because I'm sure that will look amazing.
Oh, absolutely. Like James Cameron, he knows what he's doing when it comes to this technology. Because when I saw Avatar like in 3D, oh, like this is fucking great. I'm like, like it was like they he technically he was there, like he's there with the story and all that. Like
Yeah.
that's him. Like he knows all that technical stuff.
Did you get to see that in the IMAX 3D or just regular 3D?
IMAX. I saw an IMAX 3D.
Oh, that yeah. I'm kind of I'm sad about what happened to IMAX since then because before you'd go into this big gigantic like
Yeah,
70
like
screen.
yeah, like from the field trip, right? Like you
Yeah,
go to that field trip and like it's just like this whole thing, and it made you feel sick because
yeah, and
like
I go in like IMAX, and
yeah,
now it's not the screen anymore; it's a brand, and it's like this isn't as even in the theaters that used to be
mhm,
reliable to have it. It's a smaller scale, and you don't feel
yeah,
nearly as immersed as you used to.
yeah, I completely agree too. I'm like, I think it was just recently. I was like, wait a minute, these are just screens, like where's the big? It's not big. It's supposed to be bigger, over the top, over bigger than life.
Yeah, and I
But
The Dark Knight and
mhm.
Avatar on these big gigantic screens, and like especially those scenes that you could tell were filmed for IMAX. You're just like, oh, I'm gonna fall off of this building. Like,
Yeah, I know, I know what you're talking about. Do you think with modern television, because right now TV is king, do you think like movie theaters are still going to stay solvent because of the quality of stories that we're seeing right now with the stuff that we can watch on Netflix or Paramount Plus? Like they just like they're taking more risks on.
yeah, I think it's gonna be a bit of a mix. I think a few years ago, Steven Spielberg and I forgot who the other filmmaker was. I think it might have been George Lucas. They put out an article saying that like
Hmm.
the era of putting every single movie in theaters is kind of coming to an end, and we're kind of seeing that now.
Yeah.
And it does feel like now we're going to come to a point where only the tent poles are going to be put in movie theaters, which is fine because the smaller scale movies do perform better on streaming
Yeah.
services. Personally, like I wouldn't mind going to see like a smaller movie in theaters, but they're so hard to find. Like you have
Hmm.
to travel, you have to like find what theaters playing it, go all the way to LA, like
Yeah.
find traffic. Whereas I could just turn it on at home and just this is easier. I watched Coda at home.
Yeah, I completely agree because like sometimes they're only showing it for like at one screening, and then it's at 2 p.m. and it's like it's just like difficult. They make it really hard to watch those new classics. So we're watching them now like on the streaming services.
Yeah. And one thing that bothered me this year in particular, there was a lot of talk about like, oh, this movie flopped at the box office. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. It was also released at the same time on HBO Max. Why aren't you looking at those numbers too?
Hmm.
Because I'm sure it performed well there.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Like it's just like they neglect stuff. They choose what to see.
Yeah.
What is your favorite TV show right now?
Ooh.
Like
Uh,
dramatic.
oh,
Yeah,
what
because
is
I watch a lot of sitcoms. So I don't know. I just
it's
wanted to.
that's a tough one. I'm trying to think. What am I watching right now? Um, the first show that came to mind was The Witcher, and I know that's not my favorite, but I do enjoy it. Um, wow, that's a good question. I could tell you my favorite show of all time is The Golden Girls, but
Oh, for sure, dude. I'm like, yeah, that's like one of the top notch like sitcoms of all time because
It's
like
the ultimate comfort show. If I'm having trouble sleeping, turn it on Hulu. I'm like, okay, there we go.
yeah, like I have a comfort show too, and it's I Love Lucy. Like if I feel sick or down, it's just like it's comforting to see Ricky, Lucy, and Ethel. You know what I mean? It's just
Yeah,
like it's comforting. And with like the Golden Girls, I agree too because it kind of feels like you're just hanging out at your grandma's house for like
yeah.
30 minutes or an hour, and like just the sass that goes down there.
Oh, so fun, so fun. I love it. And I just started watching the sequel show, Golden Palace.
Oh yeah,
I mean, it's not the same, but it's still fun. I like it. Kind of
it's
interesting.
it's something, right?
Don Cheadle, before he became the Don Cheadle we know today.
Yeah. And wasn't Cheech Marin in that show? Did he play
Yeah,
like a cook? Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I haven't checked it out yet, but I got Alex into the Golden Girls because like I told him like, dude, like as a gay man, you need to watch this show. And he fell in love with it. Like we were laughing like it's like like a brand new show because like that type of show is like endearing. You know that like the comedy still hits
And
because they're all ladies. They're supposed to talk like this. You know, like dated. They're from
it,
another era. You know,
yeah, it did feel ahead of its time too,
it
especially like
did.
when they get into like the
The
social.
AIDS stuff.
Yeah, the one episode where Sophia is like the one who's like, no, your brother should be able to marry another man.
Yeah.
And she even explains it in a way that anyone could understand it. It's like, don't you think he also wants someone he could spend the rest of his life with? And it's like,
Mhm.
oh, they get it. They were getting it all the way back then.
You know what I saw? I remember watching an episode from the Golden Girls where like what the main controversial topic was like one of the daughters was dating was an interracial relationship. He was dating like a black man, and they had like a problem with it, and they were discussing it. And they kitchen, I'm like, I can't believe this was like an episode that this was a big deal back in the '80s. Because like now, like people like are we're everybody's dating each other. There's no like I don't. It doesn't feel weird to me that people are like white guys are dating like black girls and vice versa. And it was such a big deal back like 30 years ago. I thought
Yeah.
that was wild.
It wasn't even, because it kind of thinks, it makes me think about like back in, it was only what, 25 years before that Guess Who's Coming to Dinner came out in
Hmm.
theaters. And that was about an interracial
Yeah,
relationship. But that was even before, I think that was released, was it before the Loving Decision?
I
Before
don't know.
for interracial relationships to happen.
Mhm.
So interracial relationships hadn't even been legal that long when the Golden Girls came out. So that was kind of an interesting take.
Yeah, it's very yeah. What modern show do you like right now that's like a sitcom?
Modern sitcoms. Oof. I really like The Good Place.
The Good Place. Is that with Ted Danson?
Yes, and
Yeah,
Bell.
yeah. I haven't. I watched a couple episodes, but like John he binge watched it without me, and now I'm like I can't. I haven't watched it.
You should give it a shot when you have a chance. It's really good, very well written.
You,
Even the ending, which it makes me sad watching that ending because it's very bittersweet.
mhm,
But like, it was the only way I could think of where they could end the show. So I
I
can't
see.
think of a better way to end it. But also, the ending makes me very sad.
Or did you like Breaking Bad when it came out? Was that like a
So
show
that
you like?
I jumped in on like pretty close to when it was over.
Mhm.
Like I caught up right before the last episode, and I was like, okay. So I did really enjoy that though.
Like I find myself like enjoying more that's I'm watching at home, like dramas or sitcoms more than I go to the movie theater because I feel like the emotional experience that I get watching these hour-long shows, it's more gratifying because like they span them out for seasons and you can flesh out the characters, like go into like different of their like in depth of their relationship with each other. Like it just I feel I get more out of it story wise. And I think that's why TV is nailing it right now because movies are the short stories right now.
TV has definitely come a long way over the past 25 years or so.
Yeah.
I think I don't know what show to credit with that, but Game of Thrones really comes to mind
Mhm.
because it really gave you that Lord of the Rings style spectacle and
It
just
did
kind of dragged it along like what was it, 6, 7 seasons?
something like that.
Yeah, and even though the last season kind of felt underwhelming.
Hmm.
Um, for the most part, it was a pretty strong show.
Yeah, it's unfortunate because I was expecting that the White Walkers and them fighting for the throne happening at the same time, you know, but they had two separate episodes, and I don't know. I just felt like they should have just done it all together. I thought it would have been great.
Season just kind of felt like everyone working on the show was just kind of over it and just wanted to finish it as fast as they could.
It's like it's done.
Like, give us
Can we
two
go
more
home?
episodes. Let's kind of like spread the story out a little more.
Yeah.
Character development. No, we're just gonna end it.
Hey, are you excited about the new Lord of the Rings series on Amazon?
Maybe.
Maybe
I'm
because
gonna give
they
it.
spent a lot of money.
Yeah, I'm gonna of course give it a fair shot. I love the Lord of the Rings movies, and it's not a straight remake of the books.
No, this is a prequel, like 4,000 years before like before Lord of the Rings, before that journey or
I've
something,
been
something like that.
into it, but like, is it based on anything that Tolkien has already wrote, or is it like original, brand new material that they're just putting in
You
Middle?
know, I don't know 100%, but it feels like this is original material based on source material,
Yeah,
and yeah, I think that's what's going on here.
because he had a lot of unreleased stuff and
Well,
lots.
maybe they're all putting everything together from like what he wrote.
Yeah, that's what they did with the Hobbit trilogy.
Like that series, the new Lord of the Rings series, it cost over 400 million to make that one season. Well, the first season cost over $400 million.
Yeah,
Yeah, so they got to make their money back.
yeah.
Oh,
Hopefully,
but like with Steve Jobs, that's like not Steve Jobs. Like what's his name?
Jeff
The
Bezos.
guy from yeah, Jeff Bezos. It's just like a drop in the bucket for him.
Yeah,
Yeah, he'll be fine.
that's also like I've lately I haven't really taken to really bashing movies as much.
Hmm.
If I do, it's because it's like it's going to be causing like real world problems.
Mm,
It has like a bad messaging or whatever. That's different. But
yeah.
just being maybe like bad, I don't
Mhm.
really bash those anymore because I feel like there's something we could even pull from those too.
Yeah, I think that's a sign of maturity too, because like you think about like nobody sets to make a terrible movie. They're all putting in like their 100%. You know what I mean? Sometimes they just drop the ball because like it's just really hard to make a movie.
It's like so many hands are in a movie too.
Yeah.
Could have this amazing movie, and then the studio's going to go in and be like, cut, 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 and
Hmm.
then you don't have a good movie anymore.
Yeah. It's like what Josh Whedon did with the Justice League movie, right? Like he just made
uh,
it into like a shit show. And then when Zack Snyder did his cut, and it was way better than what came out in the theater.
I feel okay bashing the Joss Whedon cut just because of how what he put the cast through.
Yeah. And if for those who don't know, please enlighten us. For people who don't know about that.
So he was kind of psychologically abusive with them.
Mm,
He would reshoot scenes that wouldn't make sense within the context of the movie. There was one scene where I guess the Flash falls down and his face lands on Wonder Woman's chest.
mhm,
That seems to be sort of a trope that he likes to go to, but with the tone that Zack Snyder set for his movies, it didn't fit there.
mhm.
Uh, the way he treated, oh my gosh, why am I feel horrible. Why am I blank?
Wonder Woman,
War Machine.
War Machine. Oh, I don't know his name.
Oh,
But I know who you're talking about because like he left the franchise. It left a bad taste in his mouth.
yeah, and the way he was treated was horrible. And honestly, when you watch the Zack Snyder cut with his scenes reinserted, he's the heart of the movie.
Hmm.
And by taking him out, it's like, of course the movie's bad. You took away the emotional core of the movie.
Yeah, that's so like sabotage. You just wanted to have the Marvel world be
Yeah,
better than
that's
DC. That's what was going on.
yeah.
um,
I feel like
like,
prepared for this more because now it's going to bother me that I don't remember his name.
oh yeah, go for it. Research it.
Yeah.
Who is it?
All right.
We'll get the answer soon, guys. And thanks for
Yeah.
commenting.
And I'm sure that there's someone screaming in the comments. It's yeah. Let
We're
me.
getting the answers.
All right. Ray
Uh,
Fisher.
Ray Fisher.
I knew it was Ray something, and I'm like, what's his last name?
I noticed that every time the camera turns on, people would forget. It's just like it starts deleting things. Like it happens
It's
to me
like I
all
knew
the time.
his name up until the moment I turned on
Yeah,
this podcast. So I'm
uh,
like,
it's something with the cameraman.
yeah,
It's like the MIB. thing. You know what I mean? That flash, it turns on and wipes your memory clean.
Yeah, pretty much. That's what I think it is.
There was something else that. Oh yeah, Martin Scorsese said that the superhero movies, they're like amusement park rides. You're just like you're there for the ride, and after that, you don't really get anything emotional out of it besides the thrill of watching the movie. And what do you feel about that comment? Do you think like he, as an auteur, do you think is he's not giving these movies a fair shake?
I feel like that his statement was sort of like really misrepresented
Hmm.
because he's not entirely wrong, especially even like the good ones. Like because I don't like I said, I like the Marvel movies a lot, but if you look at a majority of their output, yeah, they kind of are roller coaster rides. But then you get like they do have gems in there. Like I can't deny that Black Panther was a great movie.
Hmm.
But then you look at maybe something like Thor: The Dark World, and it's like, okay, yeah, this is a roller coaster. This is it's fun, but
Yeah.
I'm not getting much out of it. So he's not entirely wrong, but I feel like his what he said was misrepresented and pushed into elitist snobbery, like, oh, I only like artsy movies.
Hmm.
And it's kind of not a fair way to represent him because he's the kind of person who loves movies so much. He'll go out and he made a documentary about all the Italian movies he loves because he
Hmm.
wants everyone else to watch these Italian movies that
Yeah.
he's so excited about. And I kind of really love that energy.
Hmm. And I mean, I understand what he's saying because like he comes from the school of like the emotion, like the character and learning something different, like and I mean I can see what he's saying, but at the same time, I mean I enjoy these movies too. I I do. I guess you could consider them a popcorn movie, which is like a popcorn movie. You just go in with your popcorn and you just enjoy it. It's just a movie. It's just like you don't think about the outside world and you're just there for the ride,
I
and
also
it's fine.
what he's worried about too, and I also think he's not entirely off the mark here, is that the studios are only going to be putting their budgets into these movies, and then all of these like more thought provoking movies kind of get pushed off to the side.
Yeah.
I'm thinking what happened this year with Spider-Man came out, and yeah, that was a really good movie. I
Hmm.
enjoyed that, but at the same time, you have Nightmare Alley coming out the same week, and I read somewhere that there was a theater where someone got called who had tickets to Nightmare Alley and was basically told, "Hey, would you like a refund for your ticket so we could cancel this show to play another showing of Spider-Man?"
Mm.
And
I didn't hear that.
yeah, I think that was sort of like a one-off thing, but I remember working at a movie theater and that kind of would happen where
It's like industry's practice.
yeah, where the big movie, I think it was one of the Twilight movies or something, um, was so big they canceled showings of the smaller movie, even if there were people who like bought tickets for it already and were
Hmm.
like willing to go see it.
Yeah, that's tragic because it's like to release a Spider-Man movie and Nightmare Alley like back to back. Of course, Spider-Man's going to triumph because it's the popular movie. Why put two movies like that to compete with each other?
Also, like
Uh,
you notice how movies don't sell out anymore?
yeah, they yeah, I know. Like, is it because like now because like we buy our tickets online so we could figure out, like the seats? It's like, oh, it's I guess you can't sit here. It's sold out, right? Because back in the day, like you would have to go to the theater to buy the ticket, and then you see in the marquee it says sold out. Like shit.
Yeah. Well, I think that's part of it, but also like theaters will open up another screen if they see that they could sell more tickets.
I see. There's a
Yeah.
need for it, right?
Yeah, and but that also means canceling another movie that could have been shown. What I think should be done, and I'm kind of pulling this idea from another podcast that I listen to. So,
Mhm.
shout out to Unspooled, one of my favorites right now. Um, it used to be that if the movie you wanted to go see was sold out, you would spill into a movie that maybe you wouldn't have seen otherwise, and it would just kind of boost that movie's grosses.
Yeah, and it's just like the business of film, right? It's just kind of like sink or swim.
Yeah, and
you know,
unfortunately,
like
like these big titans that are like controlling it, and
it's like a David versus Goliath type of story. Small studio versus the King Kongs, like Paramount and Universal.
yeah.
And yeah, what I learned researching for this episode is that 90% of all film is shot on digital, and the 10% is just all film. And do you feel like modern classic films, need to be shot on film to be considered a classic film?
Not necessarily.
No.
It's really an aesthetics choice that the
Hmm.
director wants to make.
Yeah.
Um, a digital movie can look really amazing. Film is a lot harder. I took a class where I had to shoot on film,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of pieces that go into that. You have to
Hmm.
like get the lighting right. You have to like measure the lighting. There's like this thing where you measure how much lighting is hitting your,
Yeah.
and it's a lot of work. Whereas if you have a digital camera, it's like it'll just show you what's in front of you.
Yeah, exactly. It's gonna show. It's literally gonna show you what you're gonna see in the editing bay. You know, because like I remember when I was going to film school, and these guys were shooting on 35 millimeter. Like it was like this clunky camera, very heavy, and we camped out somewhere, and when they saw the dailies, like most of the picture was soft, which it was out of focus, and it sucked because like everybody poured, like it was like blazing hot in the middle of the summer, people were pouring the performances, and the cinematographer, like he screwed it up because like everything was all soft focus, and like that's really tragic because it was like, you know what I mean, there's nothing, you can't do anything about it because like you can't see it until you go take it to the bathhouse and develop the film and watch it in the editing bay and then have your heart broken.
I think with film, you have to have a cinematographer who really knows what they're doing.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're. I
And
mean,
the
yeah,
same with the sound. You can't
yeah.
you can't forget about the sound. Sound is key as well.
Oh yeah. What I've heard is they'll forgive you for like maybe a bad looking camera angle, but they will not forgive you for bad sound.
Yeah, it's very
And
true.
oh, if a movie has bad sound, it's like it's really distracting.
Yeah. Yeah, I could attest to that. It happened to one of my productions. It's a
Yeah.
lesson learned.
Yeah.
But uh, what? Okay, let's talk about like your aspirations to be a filmmaker. Do you want to be like a writer, a director? Like, what is that? Why you watch these movies to become a better storyteller?
At one point, yeah, I was looking into doing that. Lately, I've sort of been thinking like more realistic terms.
Hmm.
Yeah, if it's something that does come up, then yeah, I'm going to do it. But lately, I'm thinking more like, okay, you know what? What if I can like just be a historian instead?
Hmm.
Like, yeah,
Oh, I see. I see. Like just like being not like the director, but like being like the art historian or like a film guy, like teaching a film class. Something with film, like even working at a museum, would be enough for you.
yeah,
Enough, like that's what you want to do.
yeah. If that ever does take off for me, then absolutely yes, I'll do it. But I'm just thinking like as a fallback plan because it's kind of a rough industry to break into.
Yeah,
Done some PA work on a couple of projects, and oh my gosh, that is hard work, and that is like
absolutely.
entry level position,
Yeah.
and it's like you're there for like 16-hour days and
Mm.
tight turnarounds, and I'm like, I cannot make a living off of this. Also,
Mm-mm.
either.
No, I agree. Like at some point, it kind of like stops being sustainable because I I might be my information might be wrong, but I heard like you have to reach like a 400 hours in order to get like healthcare benefits if you're working in productions as a PA or working as a crew in order to get healthcare. So that's like a lot of hours, and
Yeah,
those are a lot of hours that because film sets they're dangerous. There's wires all over the place. Things can fall on your head. But yeah, yeah, I understand where you're coming from about like it's very difficult to sustain one's career because like you have to feed yourself. You have to
yeah,
think about your future.
and also
But
like
yeah.
taking care of yourself, taking care of your own like your own mental health, your own like your own taking care of your own life even,
Mhm.
and it's so time consuming doing that.
Yeah, it's a struggle, and that's why like a lot of relationships they don't last. Like with they're working in Hollywood, but yeah, I'm still I'm writing, I'm still creating some stuff, and I'm still trying keeping that flame alive. But as my taste as I grew up in movies have like shifted into again like the TV shows instead of going to the movie theaters. Because I remember when I was a kid, I would be going to the movie theater every Friday, and now that I got older, I just feel like maybe because I turned into a homebody, or maybe it's also part because like I like the stuff that I'm seeing on my TV. I mean, it's a combination of both, but Yeah, it's different now. Me
Yeah,
viewing movies, like there's like a maturity to it. I don't know.
yeah, and I do like writing still. If I could ever finish the thing that I'm writing, like I did finish one draft, and I'm like, cool, I did it. And then I look back, I'm like, this is terrible. I hate it.
Just keep on working, and it's never going to be perfect, you know.
Yeah.
See what else? Oh, since we kind of like talked a little bit about popcorn movies. What is your favorite popcorn movie? Where you just like it's just like a silly movie, and you just like watching it, and then you know what I mean? Like,
Let's see. Does the Lord of the Rings count as a popcorn movie? I'm wondering because it
hmm.
does have that prestige factor to it. It even won Best Picture at the Oscars.
Well, I
Uh,
guess a popcorn movie wouldn't be nominated for an Oscar, right?
yeah,
Because it's
so
like
that knocks out Star Wars. um,
I think. Well, if my favorite popcorn movie is Face Off with John Travolta and Nicolas Cage.
oh yeah, that's a good
That's
one.
a really good one. I know it's silly if people don't know the concepts. Like they switch faces, and they're one goes in prison to find out the plot of this bomb that's going to go off in L.A. And of course, it doesn't go to plan. But it's a really good movie. It's directed by John Woo.
Yeah, one that comes to mind right now, and I probably because we were kind of discussing it earlier. Batman and Robin kind
Oh
of
yeah, that's right. That
because
is definitely a popcorn movie.
I do remember seeing that one in theaters too. And of course, I was like at that right age where I wasn't even looking at, oh, this doesn't follow the comics,
Yeah.
dark. I was like 12 when the movie came out. So I'm
Mhm.
like, this is funny. I like it. And like watching it as an adult, I'm like, yeah, you know what? This is still funny and I still like
That's cool, man.
it.
That's really cool.
Uma
And
Thurman really understood the assignment.
what's your what movies that are coming out in the future that you're excited about?
Oh, wow. Aside from Avatar 2, that one looks really good. Let's see. Trying to think of like what the major movies this summer are. I did just see the Batman. That one was amazing. Uh, it's hmm.
Kind of like Morbius. I don't know. I'm not really into Jared Leto. Kind of rubs me
I'll
the wrong
give it
way.
a shot because I've even though the Sony verse isn't like as
Yeah.
exciting, I still enjoy them because I like the Venom movies. So maybe I'll like it.
See, like that's what we're talking like what we're talking about. Like it seems like we could only think about like the superhero movies because I'm
Yeah,
also thinking about Doctor Strange.
I'm trying to push away from like Doctor
Yeah,
Strange. Yes,
but it's
absolutely.
hard. Yeah, and that's like our the topic tonight is that the studios they don't really give us the trailers for those underground movies. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
there's a really good one, or looks really good anyway, called The Northman. It's
Northman.
by the guy who made The Witch. And
Oh, was that the guy who did Hereditary?
oh no, that was
But you know what I'm talking about, right?
I always them too. So
Yeah, it kind of
every
seems like they're the same stuff.
because they both came out around the same time. Like Hereditary and The Witch came out, and then there was The Lighthouse, and it's like, oh yeah, these are two different filmmakers, but for some reason, maybe it's because they both did horror at around the
Mm.
same time.
And I would say that's a modern horror classic right there, Hereditary.
It's so good.
It's really good. Like it's so good. I was so disturbed by the movie. I'm never gonna watch it again.
And also keeping in like in line with horror, Nope looks really good too.
Oh yeah, it does. Like, is that about like UFOs and aliens or something?
Yeah,
Right. That's great. I'm
and I
glad. I'm like,
feels horror movies a lot.
yeah. Get Out was really like an original. I would consider that a modern classic. Get
Yeah,
Out.
so too.
And like us, I liked it. I liked the suspense of it, but I didn't really like dig like the explanation of what was going on. Because I maybe if it was like located like centralized in that town instead of like the whole Earth, I would have suspended my disbelief.
My thing on Us is like I love the movie, but I also if you ask me to explain to you what happened exactly, I'd be like, um, hold that thought. And
Yeah, let me watch it again.
I'm like, nope, still don't get it. But also like that uncertainty, I think, also makes it more interesting too.
Mm. I understand what you're saying.
Because Get Out,
Um,
it's more obvious like where he's going with it, like what, like the messaging of it is clearer. And there is definitely messaging in Us, but it's like left more up to interpretation.
I I see what you're saying, and like before we wrap it up, I want to ask you one thing. If somebody were to watch a classic movie, what movie would you recommend?
Casablanca.
Casablanca?
Yeah.
Like why?
So it's one of those movies. It has when it and it sounds like a cliche. I'm saying this, but you think about movies that have everything.
Mhm.
Casablanca has everything. It has like a sense of adventure. It has romance. It has drama. It will make you laugh. It'll make you cry. Um, the characters are amazing. The dialogue is just absolutely perfect. It's quotable. Um,
It's just a memorable movie.
yeah, and it's one of the few movies that gets better every time I see it because I see
Mhm.
something new in it every time. Then I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, now I love it even more.
Yeah, I'm the same way with Citizen Kane. I love that movie.
That's another one.
Like it's just something about it. Like just still feels like uh like modern, Uh, but it's like another one I would say is a Clockwork Orange because that's I mean that was all like that's an indie movie. You just used a regular camera, and now people are still talking about that movie 40 years later. Uh,
And in the Rain is a really good one too.
which one? Singing in the Rain?
Yeah, that one's a really good one. A good double feature is that and The Artist because they
Hmm.
both kind of tie into the transition from like silent
Yeah,
motion to sound. But
yeah.
one is musical, the other's a silent movie.
And what's your favorite genre?
I'm gonna go with musicals.
Musicals? Right
Yeah,
on. It's just like, oh, well, then since musicals, what's your favorite musical?
um, Singing in the Rain comes to
Singing in
mind.
the Rain?
Yeah,
My favorite musical, I would say, is The Little Shop of Horrors.
that one's so good.
Yeah, I love that movie when I was a kid. I used to watch that all the time, and I thought that was supposed to be like a horror movie, but it was just a musical.
Director's cut.
Oh, I seen the director's cut, and you know what? Like, because I was so used to watching the happy ending that when I saw the original ending, I didn't like it, even though it was true to the play. It's just that it wasn't the ending that I grew up with.
I feel like Audrey doesn't deserve to die. So
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
yeah.
You should live happily ever after. Yeah. Let's see. Well, where can people find you, man? Like, where can people like follow you? I know you're gonna have your own podcast talking about like film. Where can people watch that?
All right. So both Twitter and Instagram, you can find me on Chris Michael 85,
Hmm.
spelled the normal way that you would spell that. On Twitter, my podcast is going to be um, in a pod like this.
Okay.
Think about like the Nicole Kidman AMC ad. That's kind of where I got the idea for the title.
Oh, okay.
Uh, the podcast is called In a Place Like This. So
And that's what like I think that's I saw the your screenshot or like your profile was like Nicole Kidman watching the movie. Is that
yeah,
that's where it's from?
coming up with my own like an actual official like cover
Logo.
logo for that isn't potentially copyright.
Well, man, it was like really fun talking to you tonight, man. I really appreciate you coming on and chatting about movies. I feel like we could just kept on talking about more and more stuff, but it's
Oh yeah.
getting a little late in the tooth.
Oh gosh.
Uh,
Yeah.
but you know what? Like maybe sometime we could hang out over here and just watch the movies and
Oh yeah.
critique
Sure.
them, be film nerds.
Yeah.
But Chris, thank you so much. I hope you have a good night. And I know you have an early shift tomorrow. Don't work too hard. Don't work too hard for the man. But yeah, until next time, man, hit me up whenever, and I'll see you, Chris, next time. So for you guys at home who have been watching Casually Christian, please remember to follow us on Facebook. And please, if you guys can, go on YouTube and hit like and subscribe and smash that notification bell to catch the latest episodes of Casually Christian. And also, if you guys can, please go on our Spotify platform and follow us there. We are trying to reach 50 followers at the moment. We're close. We're very, very close. And you know what that will help us out if you guys follow. So until next time, folks, I'll see you guys soon. Stay safe, and please remember to share our content wherever you can. Have a good night, guys. I'll see you next time.